Okay, let's start with a mental image. When I see the words financial advisor, be honest, what's the very first thing that pops into your head?
For most people, I'd bet it's something chaotic.
Is it a trading floor? People screaming, buy, 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 into two phones at once.
That, or maybe, the guy in a shiny suit who's trying to sell you a mutual fund you didn't ask for.
Yeah, that's it. It's the Wolf of Wall Street hangover, right?
It is. We have this idea that the job is entirely about the transaction. Find the hot stock, make the sale, get the commission.
Exactly. And that is why today's deep dive is so fascinating. We are digging into a stack of material centered on the client-driven advisor, and spoiler alert for everyone listening, that old model.
Oh, it's gone.
The source material basically argues it's dead, or, on life support at the very least.
It really is. The shift we're looking at here is massive. We are moving from a product-driven industry where the goal is just selling stuff to a client-driven profession.
So less about picking stocks.
And much more about psychology, strategy, and just understanding human behavior.
That distinction, product-driven versus client-driven, that's where I want to start, because the text makes it seem like these are two completely different universes.
They are. I mean, think of the old model as purely transactional.
Okay.
In that world, the product is the sun, and the client just sort of revolves around it. Every meeting is a potential sale.
So give me an example. Let's say I walk into a bank in 1995. I have $10,000.
Right. And you say, I want to invest. The product-driven advisor says, great, sign here for fund day.
No questions asked.
Very few. The goal was to move inventory.
Right.
They give the client exactly what they asked for, even if it's a terrible idea for them. It's reactive. You ask, they sell.
Which sounds efficient, but also kind of terrifying. So contrast that with the new model, a client-driven advisor. Same scenario. I walk in with my 10 grand. What happens?
The conversation stops being about the money almost immediately. The client-driven advisor basically hits the brakes.
How so?
They'll say, okay, we can definitely look at investing, but first, tell me about your life. Do you have high-interest credit card debt? Do you have kids? Are you planning to buy a house in 2 years?
So they might actually tell me not to invest that money.
Exactly. I mean, if you have $10,000 in cash but $20,000 in credit card debt at 19% interest, the best investment is paying off the debt.
Right.
A product-driven person sells you the fund. A client-driven strategist tells you to pay down the debt. The strategy has to match the need.
It sounds like a lot more work for the advisor, honestly. Why the shift? Why not just keep selling products the easy way?
Well, the sources point to two massive disruptors here: regulation and technology.
Okay, technology I get. We can all buy stocks on our phones now. I don't need a guy in a suit to press the buy button for me anymore.
Precisely. The execution, the actual act of buying and selling, has been commoditized. It's free or close to it.
So the advisor's value had to change.
It had to. If their only skill is, I can get you into the market, they're obsolete. They had to move up the value chain to become guides through all the complexity.
And the regulation piece.
Just the sheer volume of stuff out there now. There are thousands of funds, ETFs, insurance products. It's a jungle.
So people actually need a guide.
They need a professional guide because the consequences of getting it wrong are so much higher. It's just dangerous to go it alone.
So the advisor becomes less of a gatekeeper and more of a navigator.
That's a perfect way to put it. And that leads to this concept of proactive advising, which is a huge theme in the text.
I loved the example they gave for this one.
Right. The reactive advisor waits for the phone to ring. But the proactive advisor is looking at your life's timeline and anticipating the bumps in the road.
And the classic example was the client having a baby.
Yes. A reactive advisor does nothing until the client calls, maybe 6 months later, totally sleep deprived, saying, hey, should we save for college?
Right.
A proactive advisor knows you're expecting. They see the life event coming. They reach out and say, congratulations. While you're adjusting, let's set up the education savings. And crucially, let's review your life insurance. You have a dependent now.
That's a totally different relationship. It feels like a partnership, not a transaction.
It is. And it relies on what the text calls the full service offer. It's this idea of an integrated strategy.
Instead of having one person for insurance, another for investments.
Third for taxes, and you're handling your own debt.
Right.
It's fragmented.
And none of them talk to each other.
Exactly. The full service concept is that one advisor or one team looks at the whole picture: home buying, debt, retirement, education, because all those things pull from the same wallet.
That makes so much sense. You can't view these things in isolation.
And that brings us to the lifestyle conversation.
Yeah.
This is where the job gets really psychological and, frankly, a bit awkward.
Lifestyle's the fun stuff, the cars, the travel.
Of course, everyone loves talking about the toys. But the advisor's role is to be the reality check. The source material has this one line that really stuck with me. Not all lifestyle goals are affordable.
Ouch, that's the conversation nobody wants to have. Sorry, you can't have the pony.
It's the hardest part of the job. The text gives this example of the trade-off between buying a luxury car now versus saving for retirement later.
Mm-hmm.
The advisor has to look a client in the eye, often a successful person who isn't used to hearing no, and help them prioritize. It's not about saying no. It's about saying, if you buy this $80,000 car, you work 3 years longer. Is that a trade you want to make?
So it's about informed choices. Okay, let's get into the mechanics. Because the text outlines a very specific engine for this whole profession, the 6-step financial planning process.
This is the core.
Yeah.
If you take nothing else away from this, understand that this is a strict process. And the text actually flags this as an exam trap. The order of these steps matters. You cannot skip around.
Okay, let's walk through them. Step 1, establishing the relationship. Seems pretty basic.
It seems basic, but it's formalized. This is the initial interview. It's where you discuss the process, the fees, conflicts of interest. And it culminates in a letter of engagement.
Sounds very formal, like a marriage proposal with more lawyers.
Essentially. But it matters. It details the services, the compensation, the duration. It moves the relationship from a casual handshake to a defined professional scope. You know what you're signing up for.
Okay, so we're engaged. Step 2. This is where the real work begins, collecting data. And the text splits this into quantitative and qualitative data.
This is so critical. Quantitative is the hard stuff. Income, expenses, assets, liabilities, your will, it's the math.
Stuff a computer could gather.
Pretty much. But the qualitative data, that's the soft stuff.
The feelings.
The feelings, the attitudes, the risk tolerance. How much do they actually know about money? Are they terrified of ending up poor like their parents? There's a great nuance here the source highlights between explicit and implicit data.
Okay, break that down. Explicit is what I say. Implicit is what I mean.
Basically, explicit data is what the client tells you or writes down. I want to retire at 60. I am comfortable with risk. Implicit data is what you infer from their behavior.
Give me a real-world example of that.
Okay, a client fills out a form, clicks the box for aggressive investor, loves risk, wants high returns.
Right.
Then the market drops 2% on a Tuesday, and they call you, hyperventilating, asking if they should sell everything.
Ah. Their actions contradict the paperwork.
Exactly. The implicit data, their panic, tells you they are actually risk-averse no matter what they wrote down. A good advisor reads the body language, hears the tremor in the voice.
That's where the human element really shines. An algorithm might just read the checkbox, but a human sees the sweat on the brow.
Right. And all of that informs steps 3 and 4, which is the analysis and recommendation.
This is crunching the numbers.
It's the gap analysis. You look at where they are, where they want to be, and you figure out if a bridge can even be built between them. This is where you might hit the unachievable goals protocol.
Which is a polite way of saying, you're dreaming.
Pretty much. If the math doesn't work, if a client wants to retire at 50 with $5 million, but only saves $100 a month, the advisor has to step in.
And what can they do?
The text says there are really only 4 levers to pull. You can extend the timeline, so work longer.
Okay.
You can reduce the goal live on less. You can increase savings, spend less now. Or you can take on more risk.
But taking on more risk is, well, risky.
It's the most dangerous lever because it isn't guaranteed. You can't just decide to get higher returns. So usually the conversation is you have to work longer or you have to save more.
Which loops right back to that lifestyle conversation. Sorry, no luxury car.
Precisely. So once a plan is agreed upon, we hit step 5, implementation.
The action phase.
Right. Putting the plan into motion. Buying the funds, setting up the automatic transfers. But notice this is step 5. In the old model, this was step 1.
Ah, they started with the product.
Yes. Now the product is just the tool to execute the strategy from steps 1 through 4.
And finally, step 6, periodic review. Why is this so important? Can't you just set it and forget it?
Absolutely not. The source is very clear. Life changes and economics change. A financial plan is only good for the moment it's printed.
Right. You get married, divorced, lose a job, inflation spikes.
All of it. The text suggests a review at least once a year. If the market crashed, you might need to save way more next year to stay on track. If you don't review, you just drift off course. It's a living loop.
I want to circle back to goals. The text says most people are actually really bad at setting them.
They are. We
Hmm?
tend to be incredibly vague. The classic bad goal is, I want to retire comfortably.
Sounds nice, though. I'd like to be comfortable.
We all would. But what is comfortable? A cabin in the woods or a penthouse in Paris? You can't plan for it.
So you have to turn that into a good goal.
A good goal has to be specific, measurable, prioritized, and time-based. So instead of retire comfortably, it's something like, I want an after-tax income of $60,000 a year, adjusted for inflation, starting at age 65.
That's a number you can build an equation around.
Exactly. You can't build a bridge if you don't know where the other side of the river is.
Now, underpinning all of this is a pretty strict code of ethics.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what separates a professional from just a salesperson. The non-negotiables are things like integrity, professionalism, diligence. But the two pillars are objectivity and confidentiality.
Objectivity is the big one, isn't it?
It's huge. It means you have to recommend what benefits the client, not what pays you the highest commission.
Make that real for people.
Okay, imagine two funds. Fund A is perfect for the client, low fees, good track record, but it pays you zero commission. Fund B is just okay, high fees, but you get a nice $500 kickback.
Objectivity means you have to recommend Fund A.
You have to, even if it hurts your own wallet. If you don't, you're violating the core ethical code.
And confidentiality seems obvious, but it's paramount.
It's not just the numbers, it's the secrets. We talk about implicit data. Advisors often know about affairs, secret debts, gambling problems, things a client hasn't even told their spouse.
Wow.
Oh.
So they are part mathematician, part therapist, part priest.
They hold the keys to the closet with all the skeletons. Protecting that information is everything. Without trust, you don't get the honest data you need to build the plan.
But there's a golden rule the text mentions about decision-making. Who's actually in charge here?
The client. Always. The rule is, the advisor recommends, but the client decides.
So if the advisor says, you cannot afford this Ferrari, and the client says, I don't care, I want the red one.
The advisor documents it. I strongly advise against this. But they cannot physically stop the client. It's their money. Now, if a client consistently ignores advice or asks you to do something unethical,
You can fire them.
you can, and you should. You have to protect your own integrity. But you can't force their hand.
So bringing this all together, we've gone from the Wolf of Wall Street to a highly regulated, psychological, process-driven profession.
It's a complete transformation. The value isn't in the transaction anymore, it's in the synthesis. It's taking all the messy emotional parts of a human life and organizing them into a coherent strategy.
And for anyone listening, if you sit down with an advisor and they start pitching a product in the first 5 minutes without asking about your life or your debt or your fears,
Run fast.
Yeah.
You want someone who follows that 6-step process.
Yeah.
That's the difference between a salesperson and a true professional.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought. We talked a lot about implicit data, reading a client's fear even when they don't say it.
Right, the unspoken stuff, the sweaty palms.
In a world where AI is getting terrifyingly good at math, where algorithms can rebalance portfolios in milliseconds, does the human advisor's entire future value just rest on that? On the ability to read the room?
I mean, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Is empathy the last unautomatable skill in finance?
The math is becoming a commodity. The humanity might be the premium product. Can an AI hold your hand when the market crashes and tell you it's going to be okay? Maybe one day. But for now, I think that human connection is the moat.
Something to chew on. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive. Stay curious.